chopper. The mill itself's wanting to hang up on me. Come on. Looks like the track is dead or something. Almost acts as if the track sections are out of line. Because it does it each time I cross from one track to the next, one bed section. Primarily when I cross from the two originals to the third. So that's the first spot. That's the second spot. Bingo. Smooth rolling all the way down. Now, you would think, well, duh, that's how it's supposed to work, Tom. Well, that is how it was working. And then it stopped. And it got to where it was hanging up. I'd roll down the track, it would hang up. Random times, it got to where I couldn't even roll the thing. Well, that was the track roller. Made a video about that, replacing that track roller. Put the new track roller on, put the new cable on, the new feed cable on. I was all excited. Went to roll it down the track, sucker jammed up again, hard. Almost worse than without the roller. Which I was able to jump it past it, then it rolled smooth again, then jammed up again. Well, it first started acting up. I'll give you all a little backstory here. It first started acting up when... Bet you're not looking at me, are you? Let's do this. So I gotta be honest with you guys, right? It first started acting up after I bumped the tracks loading the log on with the excavator. The log was actually already on, and I was trying to roll it over. And when I did, I pushed on the log. I think I was actually trying to scoot the log over against the back supports, and the whole track scooted a little bit. Well, when it did, I didn't think nothing of it. You know, like, okay, so it scooted sideways. It didn't scoot up or down, left or right, just sideways. Checked on a level, everything was still level. But it started acting up after that. Well, first thing that manifested was the guide roller. Whether or not that was a result of me bumping the track, I don't really think so, because I didn't bump the power head itself when I bumped the track. But it is what it is. So I replaced the guide roller. Well, then it's still screwing up. And so it got me looking at the tracks, thinking maybe I somehow bumped the tracks out of line. Maybe I got something out of whack. Well, you look and you sight down the rail, and you can see where it would waver a little bit. But where the rail was wavering wasn't necessarily in line with where there's bolted joints. So I came out here tonight, and I said, you know what? Whether or not it's in line with the bolted joints, maybe when I scooted the track, those bolts weren't really tight, and the track shifted a little bit. So I loosened the bolts at the joints, rolled the power head back and forth, kind of let it realign the tracks on its own. Didn't fix it. Finally, it dawned on me. I focused in on where it was hanging up, when it was hanging up. And I'll show you what I got. This is kind of interesting. This is one of those things that plays into the history of the construction of these. So, looking at our track here, you'll notice something. These first two pieces, these first two bed sections here, were original to the original purchase mill, the brand new mill. They have the top track roller here, and then they have this lower guide track as well that keeps the mill from raising up off the rails, okay, like a roller coaster. And that lower roller, or that lower track, comes into play with this bracket here. It's got a little tab on it. Now this bracket's loose because I loosened it, but it was tight, tight, tight. We go down here to the track extension that was added at some point, I don't know when, and looky there. We don't have that lower track. They took it off. They decided they didn't need it, I guess. So when I started rolling the mill backwards from here where I fixed the roller, guess what? It hangs up right there. Well, that's also at a track joint because, or at a bed joint, because that's where the extension is. So that got me, that's why I was thinking it was the bed bolts. So I loosened them, it didn't fix it. Finally, I honed in on it where it was hanging up. It's not the rollers that are hanging up. It was that stinking lower slide. And so I looked, y'all can't see, but I looked along the bottom of here, and sure enough, on the bottom side of that bottom rail, it was worn smooth. So I loosened that thing up, boom, rolls perfect. Now, y'all can't see it. Maybe you can. Right here, that lower rail is bent down ever so slightly, like something hit it, impacted it right there, bent it down. And it's kind of a springy steel, so I tried to hammer it back and it wouldn't hammer back straight. It's bent down there, and it's bent down again a little bit right here. And maybe another spot, but those two for sure. Here, it's not really bent down, but there's a big upset. There's an obvious step, like 1/8 inch or more step from this rail to that one that goes up, which is just stupid. Even though the top rail, you know, is nice and smooth. So I figure since Timber King removed that bottom rail on the bed extension, they probably figured it wasn't all that necessary. The power head on this thing's heavy enough to keep itself on the tracks unless you get stupid with it. So I loosened the bolts where that thing's floppy on this side, because that's the side that was hanging up. I didn't loosen them on this side, although right there, I probably can if I want to, because I don't think it's going to matter. But right now, it's rolling smooth, so I'm just going to leave them. You know, whatever, don't mess with it. Now I've got to go through and tighten the track bolts back up on the bed sections, snug up my axles on my rollers, because I loosened those a little bit, thinking maybe the rollers didn't quite have enough play to, you know, to adapt for upsets in the track extension. You got to tighten all that stuff back up. But it seems now, hopefully, it seems that it's fixed. And I got to tell you guys, it's been frustrating. It's been a tough little ride here because I got the mill, set it all up, and everything worked flawless. And I was super excited, threw the first log on, and yes, I sawed logs without showing you guys. Whatever, but I will show you. I want to get good at running the mill before I make demonstration videos on what I'm doing. I think that's only fair. But it was all working fine, and then it stops. And that's the biggest heartbreak of it. I mean, it would have been more heartbreaking if it would have been, you know, broken from the get-go, if I'd have bought it and set it up and right away it didn't work. But it's frustrating that I set it up, it was working, I got excited, I get these logs over here on the deck, I'm ready to go, and then it stops. You know, so there's a double, I don't know, you can't win either way, I guess. I'm just picky. But anyway, the final test will be to put a log on there and actually be able to use the power head to go through it. But if I can crank it by hand without it hanging up and without it slipping, then it should be able to go through the log without hanging up or without slipping, because there shouldn't be really, you know, there really shouldn't be any effective friction drag on the blade with your water going and a sharp blade. That shouldn't be any issue. So yeah, that's that. Broke it, fixed it,